Bye, Larry. Go read Lenin.
I would have been friends with Stalin.
Welcome to Leaping Larry's Revolutionary Reading Theatre.
Okay, it's time. Time for Revolutionary Reading Theatre. So we are finishing up today our read of Stalin, Foundations of Leninism. If you need a link to it, you can just type exclamation mark and reading in my chat, and that will always give you a link to the read that we are currently working on. So today, that is finishing up this fantastic work. We are on Chapter 9, Style in Work. The last chapter, by the way, was an absolute banger, and at the end of the read, I will show you where you can find the other parts of this read. Style and work. I am not referring to literary style. What I have in mind is style and work. That specific and peculiar feature in the practice of Leninism, which creates a special type of Leninist worker. Leninism is a school of theory and practice, which trains a special type of party and state worker, creates a special Leninist style in work. What are the characteristic features of this style? What are its peculiarities? It has two specific features: Russian revolutionary sweep, and B, American efficiency. The style of Leninism consists in combining these two specific features in party and state work. Russian revolutionary sweep is an antidote to inertia, routine, conservationism, mental stagnation, and
I've got some literature
submission.
in my car that will change your whole way of thinking.
Medicare, thank you so much for this description. Wow, what the fuck? Thank you so much, comrade. 6 months? Appreciate you. Thanks, comrade. That means a ton. The style of Leninism consists in combining these two specific features in party and state work. Russian revolutionary sweep is an antidote to inertia, so an antidote, the opposite, to inertia, routine, conservationism, mental stagnation, and slavish submission to ancient traditions. Russian revolutionary sweep is the life-giving force which stimulates thought, impels things forward, breaks the past, and opens up perspectives. Without it, no progress is possible. But Russian revolutionary sweep has every chance of degenerating in practice into empty revolutionary Manolivism if it is not combined with American efficiency in work. Examples of this degeneration are only too numerous. Who does not know the disease of revolutionary scheme concocting and revolutionary plan drafting, which springs from the belief in the power of decrees to arrange everything and remake everything? A Russian writer, I. Ehrberg, in his story The Common, the Perfect Communist Man, has portrayed the type of Bolshevik afflicted with this disease, who set himself the task of finding a formula for the ideally perfect man and became submerged in this work. The story contains a great exaggeration, but it certainly gives a correct likeness of the disease. But no one, I think, has so ruthlessly and bitterly ridiculed those afflicted with this disease as Lenin. Lenin stigmatized this morbid belief in concocting schemes and in turning out decrees as communist vainglory. Communist vainglory, says Lenin, means that man who is a member of the Communist Party and has not yet been purged from it imagines that he can solve all his problems by issuing communist decrees. I'm sorry, that sounds a lot like, again, the people who would actually read what we're about to read and think that this has anything to do with Lenin, like, proving American bourgeois nationalism. But I'll talk about that at the end. Lenin usually contrasted hollow, revolutionary phrasemongering with plain, everyday work, thus emphasizing that revolutionary scheme concocting is repugnant to the spirit and the letter of true Leninism. Fewer pompous phrases, more plain, everyday work, says Lenin. Less political fireworks and more attention to the simplest but vital facts of communist construction. And again, Lenin. American efficiency, on the other hand, is an antidote to revolutionary Manolivism and fantastic scheme concocting. American efficiency is that indomitable force which neither knows nor recognizes obstacles, which with its business-like perseverance brushes aside all obstacles, which continues at a task once started until it is finished, even if it is a minor task, and without which serious constructive work is inconceivable. But American efficiency has every chance of degenerating into narrow and unprincipled practicalism, if it is not combined with Russian revolutionary sweep. Can we think of anybody who is perhaps steeped in what you could term as unprincipled practicalism? How about these people that want to ignore questions of like settler colonialism, ongoing native genocide, regarding the important revolutionary questions facing us here? Think about it. Who has not heard of that disease of narrow empiricism and unprincipled practicalism, which has not infrequently caused certain Bolsheviks to degenerate and to abandon the cause of revolution? We find a reflection of this peculiar disease in a story by B. Pilgnac, entitled The Barren Year, which depicts types of Russian Bolsheviks of strong will and practical determination who function very energetically, but without vision, without knowing what it is all about, and who, therefore, stray from the path of revolutionary work. No one has ridiculed this disease of practicalism so incisively as Lenin. He branded it as narrow-minded empiricism and brainless practicalism. He usually contrasted it with vital revolutionary work and the necessity of having a revolutionary work and the necessity of having a revolutionary perspective in all our daily activities, thus emphasizing that this unprincipled practicalism is as repugnant to true Leninism as revolutionary scheme concocting. And this, okay, well, there's only two sentences. Hold on. The combination of Russian revolutionary sweep with American efficiency is the essence of Leninism in party and state work. This combination alone produces the finished type of Leninist worker, the style of Leninism in work. And so this, again, just like how the rest of the work completely contradicts everything that these MAGA communists, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, like completely contradicting everything that they try and say that Stalin alludes to, or that Stalin is saying, or that Marxism Leninism is about. I hope that what you see joining me in this work is that actually this work is completely critical of everything
books and
they
stuff
stand
recorded
for.
down all over the years from people. And if we could find a book with someone that had similar problems, just take what they wrote down in the book and make it. Fuck. Sorry, Trina. Take what they wrote down and make it ours.
I will grab you a communist quote here in just 1 second. But I think this is very much like what the MAGA communism is very much a reflection of this, right? Like, think about this useless practicalism, right? And again, to say nothing of the fact that you're tailing a spontaneous slogan and a spontaneous movement that is spearheaded or at least diverted by the bourgeoisie. Not only that, but you have this useless practicalism where you obscure that, as I'm always pointing out, the essence of Marxism is, of course, overcoming all oppression of man by man. And so that's like the most important principle, and everything else about Marxism is built up to essentially materialize that, right? And so when you have abandoned that core of Marxism and you're using Marx slogans, what you have become is an opportunist. Now you're using Marxist slogans and you're using Marxist language while completely obscuring the revolutionary essence of what Marxism is. And that's exactly what Lenin fought against in the Second International, right? That's exactly the revisionists that Lenin was fighting against. And so you can hopefully understand that the idea of just trying to adopt the MAGA bullshit to the communist movement is this useless practicalism, trying to appeal to sections of the working class by using bourgeois slogans or bourgeois ideas is not actually going to foster any unity. What it's going to do is create a party where you have all these different factions. People who are anti-colonial, people who reject the idea that the US is settler colonial altogether, so on and so forth, right? Like these people who are like, oh well, we have to work with people that we don't agree with. It's like, yeah, that's true, but when we're talking about within the communist movement, the revolutionaries, that's a whole different story. And that's where they like contradict themselves, because on the one hand that's the way they act, but on the other hand they act as if they are like a representative of some vanguard or something. Hey Kay, welcome in. Everybody follow Kay. Do I consider the CPC to be opportunist? As in you mean the Canadian Communist Party or the Communist Party of China? Because if you mean the Canadian Communist Party, then yes, they're very much opportunist. If you mean the Communist Party of China, then no. Do I think that it's perfect? Obviously not. It's like any other, like a revolution, and socialism itself is the revolution. And a revolution isn't a dinner party. And sometimes you have, like I was talking about yesterday, sometimes you're on the offensive, and sometimes you have to go on the retreat and make concessions in order to consolidate that working power, which is the stage that China has been in. Understandably so. Now, that's not to say that I think it's perfect. I don't think anywhere is. Especially, and any place that is waging a revolution, again, not going to be a dinner party. I think that certain conditions, including very unfavorable ones, has created conditions whereby DPRK has been able to advance along the road of the revolution at an accelerated rate that essentially no other country has done. And that's why the theory of building socialism and communism itself emerged in DPRK. And don't misunderstand me. Like, the goal of Marxism-Leninism, of course, is the building of socialism. But Leninism isn't the theory of actual socialist construction after. As you can see from this work, actually. As you see from this work, Leninism really only deals, when we're talking about building socialism, only the very, very beginning of the building of socialism in USSR, right? And it can only deal with that very beginning. Whereas DPRK, Juche arose because they were in a further along in that sort of revolutionary struggle, and they needed a new theory that pertained to socialist construction, where Marxism, Leninism run into limitations, which is understandable, because the limitations of Marxism, Leninism are revealed in socialist construction, because Marxism, Leninism deals mainly with overthrowing capitalism and imperialism and the initial stage of socialist construction. Right? We're not dogmatists. Like, we know that Marx and Engels, obviously, they couldn't have said much about socialist society. Lenin said very, very little about it. Stalin didn't create much new theory himself, but he did warn that new theory was absolutely necessary under the new conditions that USSR was facing in his last work, Economic Problems of Socialism in the USSR. So, yeah, that is weird, Kay, but that's a whole can of worms. Okay, so with that, we completed our read here. You're gonna choose what you're gonna choose what we're gonna read third, I should say.